Hi everybody, it's Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio, and today I am working on my 10-inch sampler block, and this is a sampler that I'm making out of 10-inch squares, out of 10-inch blocks, and I currently have them up on my design wall. Now, I was originally going to make this a 5x5 layout and decided to do a 4x4 instead because that's going to be plenty big for me, and I'm really just wanting to get this project completed. I have enough blocks to be only 3 short of making a 5x5 quilt, but it's a little bit bigger quilt than I want to make, and as I said, I'm just ready to end this project and get it done. So I'm going to put this together, and I'm going to have a link in the description box below where you can see the layout, and I have it here on my little sheet here. This is from EQ8, that I made this on EQ8, and then I'll also have the fabric requirements if you want to make this quilt exactly the way I did. And every block in here is on my channel, so you can see a tutorial for that, and in those tutorials is a link to get the written instructions on how to make the block, so you could make this block, this whole quilt for yourself. Now, what I decided to do, I was debating on the sashing. I didn't know if I wanted to do a low volume or if I wanted to do a solid color. So what I decided to do was to use a colored print. And I decided this because I went through my stash and looked at all the fabric I had in this line of fabric and used what I had enough of and did it that way. So the sashing is going to be this yellow, and I believe this is from Lori Holt's stitch line. Now, all of these are Lori Holt fabrics, but they're from different lines. This one is her stitch line. The cornerstones are going to be this teal, and the inner border is going to be the same teal. And this one, I believe, is from her B Basics line. I don't know if it's the 2017 or the 2020 line. I'm not certain which one, but it's one of those lines. And then the outer border is also going to be this fabric, and it's going to be a 4-inch border. So that's how I decided. I found out which fabric I had the most of and decided, okay, that's going to be the outer border and the sashing, and then the second one I had the most of is going to be the inner border and then the cornerstones. So that's how I decided. I just really did not want to go out and buy more fabric. So today I'm going to work on the sashings that need a cornerstone. So I'll need 9 sashes with cornerstones, and this is a non-directional fabric, so it doesn't matter which side these cornerstones go on, but if you do have a directional fabric, you'll have to watch that. So I'm going to just sew these together and press them, and then I'm going to start sewing the sashings without the cornerstones onto the blocks and sew those into rows and get this quilt put together. Okay, now I'm going to cut them apart, and I'm going to press to one side, and then I'm going to start sewing the sashes onto the blocks. Okay, so this is the next day, and I didn't get very far yesterday. I just got the cornerstones sewn on to the sashes where it was needed. So that's as far as I got. So today what I want to do is I want to sew the sashing pieces without the cornerstones onto the sides of the blocks. So I have the first row of blocks here, and the first 3 blocks will get these sashes. So, and then I can sew the bottom sash on it. Now there are different ways to sew sashing onto your quilt top, and this is the way I'm going to do this one. And I just, let's see, just got them out of order here. So let me put them back. Here we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is do the sashing on the sides, and then I will add one of these strips to the bottom. So that will, and then I can sew the rows together. Another way you can do it is just add your sashing pieces, sew the row together, and then sew a row of sashing with the cornerstones together, and then sew that to the row above. I don't want to do that because there may be a little bit of difference in the length, because some of these blocks have a lot of pieces, like this block here, and so it may be smaller than the sashing piece, but actually it looks like it's the same, because I did sew this one with a scant 1/4 inch. So I think it's going to be okay, but we'll see. So let me find my presser, or my foot pedal here. And I haven't pinned anything. I'm just sewing this all together. But I am checking to make sure my seams are going in the right direction. Okay, so I'm going to press this and then add that bottom sashing. Okay, now this block is directional, so I just have to decide which way I want this block to go, and I needed to do that before I sewed this side piece on. So this is already set as to which way it's going to go. And then I'm going to put my cornerstone on, and I need to press this the other direction. So let me press it to go that way. Okay, so what I'm doing is getting these seams to nest. So I did not think this out in advance, so I'm having to make some adjustment. And then I'm just going to place a pin right here. And then I'll place one at the end here too. And one in the middle, and we'll see how this works. And then I'll sew this one on. Okay. All right, so here we go. So there is that block. So I'm going to go ahead and press this. Okay, so now I'm going to just work on the next block, and I'm keeping my pattern pretty close so that I can refer to it, make sure I got placement right. Okay, so it's another day and I am still working on the quilt top for the sampler quilt, and I'm working on the inner border now, and this is going to be this teal fabric here, and I've cut 5 strips the width of the fabric, and I'm going to piece these together and attach them to the quilt. So I'm just going to do a mitered join. Having pieced borders doesn't bother me. I know it does bother some people, and so they will do, they will buy enough fabric so that they can get a full piece for their borders. But I'm using what I have at the moment, so that means I'm going to have to piece things together. And since the piece borders don't bother me, it's really not an issue for me. So I'm just going to go ahead and get this done here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and trim this off, leaving a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then I will press this seam open. So I'm going to just go ahead and do that. Okay, this is Friday, June the 10th. I'll give you an idea of how long this project's taking me. Now, it's not a real long time. It's just that I've only had a few minutes here and there to work on a quilt. So that's why it's taking so long. So I'm going to set this aside, and then I'm going to sew 2 more pieces together. So I'm going to do the sides. I'll do the sides of the quilt first, and then I'll do the tops. Make sure I got the sides. Here we go. There's the side. Now, I do have a question for you. And write your answer in the comments below. What is your least favorite part of making a quilt? I'm just curious. This is my least favorite part of making a quilt, is adding the borders. I don't know why, but it is. It's my least favorite part of making a quilt. And I put borders on almost all my quilts, but I don't know, it just seems to take a lot longer than piecing the top for some reason. I know it doesn't. It just seems to take a long time for, you know, you're basically, you know, sewing 4 seams around your quilt, and it seems to take forever. But that's my least favorite part of making a quilt. Okay, so now those 2 are on, and I'm going to press them open and trim them, and then do the same procedure for the side borders. Okay, so now I've got the inner border done. I'm going to work on the outer border. So I have cut 6 strips of the outer border fabric, 4.5 inches wide, and I'm going to piece these together and do a miter on these also. And since this is a wider border, I'm going to go ahead and draw a diagonal line on there. So I've got my ruler here to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and lay my pieces out. And they're going to go like this. And I'm going to go ahead and put a pin on this outer corner. And get this as flat as I can, and then I'm going to lay my ruler corner to corner and then draw a line here. So where it intersects here and here, my pencil's a little blunt, so use whatever marking tool you like to use. This won't show because you're going to stitch on that. So I've got that there. I'm going to place a pin on the other side also so it won't shift, and then sew that. So that needs to go right like that. So now I can pull that back and I have my miter. I'm going to go ahead and find the center of the top here, just by folding it in half and putting a pin in there. And these pieces are 50.5 inches long. So the outer border needs to be 50.5 inches long here. Now the next 2 borders are going to be longer, of course, because they're you have to add in the width of the outer border that we're putting on now. Okay, I'm going to continue on doing the same thing with the rest of the outer border pieces, and when I get them all sewn on and pressed, trimmed, then the quilt top will be done and I'll show you that. Okay, so here is the finished quilt top. I have all the sashing and the borders done, and I have it hung up on my design wall at the moment. And so it is now all ready to be quilted. So I'm pretty happy with it. It's a little bit different technique for me to use the sashing color that I used being the same as the outer border. Usually I use the same color as the inner border and then have a different color for the outer border, but I think it needed a little bit more yellow in it than what it had, so I think this kind of helps balance things out, and it makes the block show but it doesn't make the quilt feel real heavy. So I'm pretty happy with the way this one turned out. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please click that like button, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and click that notification bell so you'll be notified when the next video comes up. And in the meantime, I hope you're all staying safe and healthy, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links, and to keep up with my latest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.